claim of ITC and the fraudulent business activities, which is defrauding the government, dealers KYC, but also the place from where you are doing your business. Implement the compliances in your systems, within the accounting team. Now the portal is implementing such access of ENR form 03 where you have Welcome friends. We are in late March right now. Now let us move on to some other changes that is coming from April. The third important point is the GSTR3B, as we all know, so that there is no dispute for the future periods. They have updated the form. They have inserted various tables through which various information is now going into the 3B, where the monthly return is now being taken as a very important declaration of information, not only of payment of tax but also declaration of information, which is going to consolidate towards the annual return, which is going to be then reconciled with your books of accounts. So filing of 3B is now becoming more and more important in order to avoid any future litigation. So from April, there will be separate columns will be inserted for late fees, for interest calculations, and other tables which are upcoming. We will be making a separate deliberation on that also. So mind you, your systems, your internal systems, your accounting systems needs to be updated with regard to capturing of information, so that we can feed through the GSTR3B. So post March, this is another going to be a major change that is going to happen for financial year 25-26. Next point which I am going to deliberate on is registration. As we all know that the registration process, which was initiated by the GSTN initially, has gone under several changes. Recently, biometric authentication has been started, where after the first application for registration, a separate slot has to be booked for authentication of your biometrics for registration, where the dealer has to be physically present in one facilitation center, where they have to give their fingerprints, retina scan will be done, and everything will be done. So this biometric authentication has been mandated. Post April also, there are certain changes that came in, where if you want to avoid this biometric authentication, if you are avoiding this biometric authentication, then physical verification of your registered place is becoming mandatory. Since the registration is totally linked with not only the dealer's KYC but also the place from where you are doing your business, the physical presence of such business, the proper documentation of such business, whether it belongs to you or we have taken out on rent, those are becoming more and more important. If you do not do this biometric authentication, you will now be ready to face a physical verification by the department at your registered place. In one of the practical cases which we faced this time is that the GSTN has implemented an AI system where it is trying to gather information of the registered person through multiple other sources and categorizing such registration to be risky and red flagging those registrations for further information. Now, through offline, they are also asking for income tax returns. They're also asking for bank statements to see whether the transactions which are made or the registration which are sought for is free from any kind of manipulation, whether there are some red flaggings of the promoters, directors, proprietors in some other registration. Since you have, say, let's say if you have some other registration with the same PAN and you have not been filing GST returns or not complying with such returns, and you are seeking a fresh registration for maybe for some later for different business, for a different place of business also, there also such red flagging is being done and physical verification is conducted. The department is raising clarifications. From April 2025, new registrations needs to be carefully handled, because department is trying to drill in more and more information at the registration stage itself. This basically to curb the fraudulent ITC, the fraudulent claim of ITC and the fraudulent business activities, which is defrauding the government for payment of taxes. So this important update with regard to registration has recently come up. Moving on to our last point for today's discussion is the mandatory generation of e-way bill by unregistered persons. As we all know that e-way bill, generation of e-way bill does not depend on registration of a particular person. E-way bill generation depends on the movement of goods, whether you are paying taxes, whether there is any taxable goods, whether there is intrastate, interstate, nothing comes up. It is only the consignor and the consignee. It is only the movement of goods which triggers the generation of e-way bill. So e-way bill generation was previously can be done by registered person. The transporters, if the transporters are also not registered, then there is a transporter ID created for unregistered transporters, and there is a separate provision for that. Now there was also a provision that any unregistered person can also generate e-way bill. Say for example, you are a seller and you are unregistered, and the buyer is also unregistered, and can we generate the e-way bill? Previously, what was happening? The transporter need to generate the e-way bill if the amount is more than 50,000. First and foremost, in West Bengal, the limit for interstate movement is 50,000 and intrastate movement is 1 lakh. So any person who is sending a consignment of more than 50,000 needs to check whether a generation of e-way bill is mandated for him or her. Now the GSTN has come up with an advisory on 15th February 2025, where they have now implemented in the e-way bill system and implemented a system of generation of e-way bill by an unregistered person also. The GSTN advisory is available on the internet. So the procedure and the tutorial guide that how an unregistered person needs to generate an e-way bill is given there. Here I just want to mention one thing is that it's a simple process of registering and getting a 15-digit unregistered ID. So the GSTN advisory, which was issued on 15th of February 2025, is readily available in the GSTN portal, and it clearly says that the previous notification, that was notification number 12/2024, dated the 10th July 2024, that notification expanded the scope of Rule 138 by inserting a fourth provision where ENR03 form has been mandated there in that notification. Now the portal is implementing such access of ENR form 03, where you have to file that ENR, you have to create a 15-digit enrollment ID, create a user ID and a password with a mobile verification, OTP based mobile verification. You need to have a PAN, you need to have a proper address details from where the goods are moving to where the goods are being dispatched, and you can now create that 15-digit ID and you can generate an e-way bill without being registered with the GST department. So the buyer or the seller, if both are unregistered, then still you can make a consignment of goods with an e-way bill from the system itself. The form is ENR03. Step-by-step guidance is given there, and it's a very simple process, and that can be done very easily if you can follow the tutorial guide. We have tried to discuss 5 important areas which is not only important for March but also important for April or the beginning of the year. So for all business entities, for all business dealers, it is very important to start the new year, that is April 2025, with your systems being updated with the compliance portals or the compliance related activities. Compliance related measurements has been taken and that has been updated in your systems, educating your accounting team or the finance team for the regular compliance. And one thing I just want to add as we conclude this video is it's important that with more compliance, it may seem that the business is getting more complicated, but if you don't comply, the headache or tension that is come up with the form of an inquiry or a GST notice, that is more challenging, and that will also give will take a few your peace of mind. So it's important that to be active and stay updated, make the compliances more easier, more implement the compliances in your systems, in your within the accounting team, and we will be coming up with more and more latest changes, discussions, and practical life scenarios through this channel of ours. Thank you very much for a patient listening. Have a very good year ending. Thank you.